Hey everybody, and welcome to 31 and 31 Totally 80s. This year I decided to go with 80s horror. And why did I go with 80s horror? Because there's a lot of stuff, surprisingly enough, that I haven't seen. Things that I've wanted to see for a while or things I want to revisit. There's definitely a good list of films that we're going to be looking at this year, and I'm very excited about doing this one. Hopefully, I won't go as crazy. Luckily, it's a theme that spans a ton of different types of horror movies versus last year where I did nothing but kaiju films. And by the 20 something, I think I was ready to have Godzilla blast my brains out with his radioactive breath. So instead, we're just going to look at a different set of horror movies. Not necessarily a straight theme. I'm just looking at 80s horror. I really like 80s horror because I feel like it was really kind of inventive for the time. Kind of some of the gore schlock fests that you get out of a lot of those movies. And there's some pretty terrible ones too. So, it's going to run the gamut of, great 80s horror to probably some really terrible 80s horror. And so I thought, why not start the first one off with Demons? Demons is a 1985 flick. It is an Italian production. If you haven't seen it before, it's definitely worth a watch. Go out and check it out. And it's one of those films where I feel like it starts really slow. Like if you don't know the basic story of Demons, a girl, she's approached in a Berlin subway and she's given a ticket to go and watch a movie in a theater, and she goes with her friend. They go see it. A whore, a prostitute, whatever you want to call her, decides that she's going to put on a mask, when she's around her pimp. That's utterly fucking ridiculous. Like, it's an Italian film, so it's like, it's such a stereotypical, like, pimp character that it's ridiculous. But it's definitely relatively funny. I mean, definitely for the time. Kind of makes me think of those old 70s blaxploitation films when I think of him. But so she puts on this mask for a second. She gets scratched by this mask, and while they're watching the film, it's like the story of these four other teenagers. That one of them puts on the same exact mask, and what happens to that person? Well, turns into a demon. What happens to the prostitute? She turns into a demon, and then all of a sudden, the entire theater starts just devolving into demons. The effects are fantastic in this film. The gore is really great. The most famous scene from the movie happens to deal with one of the main heroes getting on a motorcycle and slicing people with a katana. Straight up Final Fantasy VII, everybody. And it's just fantastic. Like, it's a little long, but the biggest plus for me, besides all of that, is that the soundtrack for this film is absolutely fantastic. It is a punk and metal masterpiece in terms of music for it. The dubbing is a little weird when you're watching it. Like, you can tell that it wasn't originally filmed in the language that it was filmed in. So when you're watching it, because again, it was an Italian film. And there's a couple of silly little things, like the punks outside, the punks that break into the building. It's not necessarily my favorite parts, but you know what? It's just more lambs to the slaughter. I also like the big climactic thing where they're trying to escape and they get outside and there's the helicopter, and there is a really intense scene that goes on there. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. This is a great film to start the whole thing off with. It was great to revisit the film. It has a fantastic ending, I believe. Not just that scene that I'm talking about, but the actual end of the film. Because, of course, they're going to get out. You think it's all contained within inside the theater. And then, of course, the whole world is infected by demons. And they meet up with another ragtag crew to go out and protect themselves or find a bastion of salvation. And then there's a little bit of a twist at the end. I understand I'm spoiling a lot of the movie, but if you've never seen Demons before and you're watching this, why else would you be watching it? You've probably seen it. So my suggestion is, if you have the chance, go out and watch it. Like I said, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's well acted, but for the time, I mean, I really like the characters. I really like some of the big set pieces in the movie. There is a fear of dread while you're watching it. There's a couple of really, even watching it on home theater, it turns out to be an actually good experience. It's one of those films that it's just like, I wish that there was just a little bit more, a little less in the beginning, but all the crazy demon shit that happens in it, I just want more and more and more of it. And it's even one of those films when, like the first time I watched this film, I just kind of threw it on the TV. I was like, oh, I've never seen demons before. Let me go ahead and watch the movie. And I thought maybe it's a background movie. Maybe I'll take a nap. Who knows how it's going to go? Because the beginning is a little bit slow. But once everything started going batshit crazy, man, I just absolutely fell in love with this movie. So if you haven't seen Demons, go check it out. It's available on Shudder right now. That was the way that I watch it. So if you have Shudder, and honestly, they're not a fucking sponsor. Nobody's a fucking sponsor of these shows. But for the price that you're paying, if you really love horror, go fucking get Shudder. And it's worth the watch. It did spawn a couple of sequels. I haven't seen any of the sequels, and maybe I'll go check them out. But I don't think anything could really top Demons. So with that being said, this is day number 1. And make sure that you check out the days to follow. So we'll catch you later. All right. Bye.